Doctors have no clue what their drugs really do to people. Drugs are really, truly very inaccurate. There is a lot of misconception about diagnosis of a human and what that really means. And drugs are pushing people toward their death. And some drugs are bringing you to a near-death experience. Like in an anesthesia type situation. Or certain drugs that are used as psychotropic drugs or whatever they're called. Then a cocktail of misinterpreted, very variable conditioning drugs. Usually drugs have multiple effects in the body. They spread out over the body, and typically they affect more than one target location in your body. This is very true. This is a chemical certainty. Okay, and we're not in the Matrix, so don't try to play that game. At least I'm pretty sure we're not in the Matrix. But even if we are, I know for certain what I felt taking a lot of different drugs over the years. I'm 40 years old, and drugs have been horrible, I mean, have you ever been really stinking drunk? Well, have you ever felt a lot of drugs that do a lot of weird shit to your body? A lot of weird shit to your brain? Mutate you even? And change how you are and what you do every day? And in a drastic way that's actually detrimental? Are you experiencing what's really going on in medicine? Because it's not really working. Medicine, in my opinion, is a failing science. It is sometimes is very, very, not often, has a little success here and there are certain things that they might be able to accomplish because of the simplicity of the nature of how that medical therapy actually works. But then again, many things in medicine are failing. Medicine is quite a failure, in my opinion. You definitely don't want to learn about it. I've been through it for years now, and I'm telling you no lie. I mean, we've got to do something a lot better. There are a few things that they've taken away from us that made us feel better. Okay, and then they give us drugs that make us feel a lot worse. That lead to some permanent changes in our body that is really screwing us up. So, it's really sad, it is. This medical thing that we think we're doing is really sad. Now, I want you to know this one big word this phrase called chemical sequencing. Now, if you can't show an accurate sequence of a chemical substance in the human body with all of the types of different cells and their chemical reactions and throughout the organ system of the human body, you can't really tell anyone what that drug really truly does. So most of this chemical sequencing is done, that we know of, with artificial intelligence, which is basically a computer program. So not only that, you have to collect a lot of chemical data with mass spectrometry and or mass spectroscopy, and you need to know your different histological cells and you break those down into parts, and you do a bunch of bodily chemical research. You start putting basically what we might call a matrix together. And then you start to sequence some artificially intelligent, who knows what, lacking the quantum physics of reality. You put this together and you try to sequence a drug that supposedly operates under the laws of particle physics, which is probably not true, because hardly anyone is really all that accurate with quantum physics. I mean, quantum physics may someday possibly be accurate, but to some degree it's really difficult, because things are quite shifty, and things are quite misunderstood. There are some laws that are in the backdrop that people don't even know about, that are really important in quantum physics, that the world doesn't even care about. You won't find this information, like the law of volume, or the law of divisibility, the law of magnetics, and how unified field theory works, the law of motion, and how that really is quantum. You need to know that everything is essentially geometrical. The world hasn't even accepted that particles exist entirely, nor have they accepted that geometrically all particles have volume, and if they didn't have volume, then they wouldn't exist at all. And we're not even certain what reality is. And many people are still contemplating religion and the matrix. And we all work on this on a daily basis. This is why life is so difficult. So it's quantum in every way. You can't have anything greater than the holy, omnipotent, religious experience, like God, and like this strange, magical universe, versus the natural universe, versus any one of the universes with a matrix inside of it. But we know that in the matrix, humans would probably most likely, in all geometrical schemata, would never really work, most likely, in all particle alignment in a matrix, because of the geometrical destruction of aligning your brain to a machine. So like, that's just one reason. And we know that humans are real because of our abilities, our mental abilities. To discover the matrix, you have to know within. You have to know what's going on within you. You have to know about how freedom is measured within yourself. Randomness is human. No machine can ever truly be random. We have the ability to make images in our mind, and those images give us psychological freedom that we use to randomly picture an image on an instant that is probably has a variance in quality, where it could be vivid or vague or distorted in such a way that makes us human. Not only that, it's random and instant, and we're not really giving any true command structure signals to, like, essentially a machine that would probably most likely be potentially perfect, but doesn't have to be perfect as a machine, but it most likely would be. But however, because our cells are such a sloppy mess, and that all of us, all people on the earth, have a variable ability in their mind to function in what they are able to imagine, which is not the only case for what makes us different than the Matrix, but like true randomness and our free will of choices, and the fact that the Matrix doesn't seem to really connect with us. If it does, it's quite limited, and I mean, that generally tells you, I mean, just because we have a fair amount of not only, measurements, our mind is quite free, and we typically believe and think on a nearly free will basis, pretty well free will. I mean, you always have the right to make any choice that you want, even though it would be counterproductive to do so. So free will, we all know that free will is not entirely 100%, but at some point you also do have some free will in your mind. If that wasn't the case, I wouldn't be making this video at all, because the Matrix wouldn't want me to do this, and if it did, I probably would be doing it totally different. But what can you say? The Matrix, what is it? What's it do? Only a machine can actually exist in the Matrix. A human is so full of errors, so full of problems, and we honestly have to learn in order to solve problems. So the fact that our memory and our faith is about learning is another thing that is strange in the Matrix. It's as if we were the Matrix, it's as if the Matrix wants us to be human, or wants us to be like a human. And this stuff with Elon Musk and connecting brains to machine devices and things like that, that's probably not going to really work out as far as like a Matrix type situation. I don't think there's going to be too many glitches. That's another thing in the Matrix. There will be quite a bit of glitching. Computers have all sorts of things that affect their accuracy. And this will probably be true almost in any geometrical universe, that if there was a machine that operated like a computer, would, in our terms, it probably would be error-filled at some point. But like, generally, the God world of magic and the Matrix world, and then there's the natural, what you call the multiverse. All of these three worlds are pretty much your only options. Doesn't really get any more major than that. So working on the physics of what makes us human is pretty important. What makes us free, if we have any freedom, and I believe we do. I believe we have freedom of choice. We have the freedom of human existence as far as it can be free. We don't have entire freedom. We all have to do things in order to survive. just like anything that exists, has to have something in order to keep it going, whatever that may be. Free will is just a part of what makes us who we are. But what makes us who we are isn't entirely free, which is who we are. So it's a part of the construct. It's just knowing that you can make choices on your own and go in the right direction. That's truly, I think, free will. And being able to imagine something in your mind at random on an instantaneous given moment and have it come out kind of looking sad and kind of vague, but yet it gives you an image in your mind when you close your eyes and you picture something and you put motion to it if you have this ability, which is like photographic in your mind, which is actually a thing that's actually might be referred to as the matrix of your mind. It actually supposedly lights up and it's a part of your consciousness, and there are little cells in there supposedly that use your memory to draw up electrical cells into a pattern of like pigments that actually light up. So like when you think about an image in your mind, your brain lights up in color, or at least what we think is color. And then you draw this image in the matrix. It would be perfect, but in our mind, it's often kind of sad. It's really a shitty picture. But actually, when I was a child, I had a very near photographic memory, but it wasn't quite absolutely photographic. Not like what we see when we look at a real photograph. But it was kind of pasty, kind of had some opacity, and it looked kind of vague, but very detailed when I was young. But as I got older, my mind totally got worse. Now my images in my mind are very vague and crappy, and when I see them, close my eyes and think of something, it's almost gone. But it's there. I can see images and I can move them around and I can shift them in all directions. But like how this occurs is the matrix of the conscious knowledge. It's the device of conscious imagery, and it comes from memory and supposedly your neurons and the matrix of your mind. So like this is all done with a complex network of cells that have electrical and chemical abilities that are very strange. Very strange, but what gives them their power is that from free will spirit, you can pull up an image and do whatever you want without ever telling your body directly any serious commands to do it. You can just on an instant picture something at random, and that shitty looking image will actually pop up in your mind very vaguely, and you can kind of manipulate and move that image, and it means that you are human. Most likely. Now that may not be entirely factual, but it's highly likely that it means you're human.